Dominic. Hey, it's a
Hi.
pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet you, and not to mention to talk to you about one of the most exciting series right now on Peacock.
Yeah, Dr. Death.
Yeah, this the series is. I checked it out. I totally binge watched it. It was one of the most captivating series that I have ever watched, and I you know I guess I don't follow the news that much. I barely heard of it. This thing.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it before jumping onto the series either. When I got the audition, I listened to the podcast. Um, but I think, America is so vast and, I guess being in a bubble here in Los Angeles and acting, I'd never heard of it.
Wow. I mean, the series is so good, and you playing, Jerry Summers was equally as well. But what initially attracted you to do, this series?
Oh boy. I don't know if I am I'm very fortunate in terms of the roles that I do. I skip from genre and tone, um, but I don't think I'd ever tackled a role like this that has such a big arc, and such a span of years. Because when we first meet Jerry, it's the 1990s, and he's 20 and he's live and ebullient and big and active. And then, of course, towards the end of the series, he's had everything stripped away from him, emotionally and physically. Um, so I think just to get to sink my teeth into such a big arc and emotional transition was the most appealing thing, because you don't always get that in a show, especially as a guest star actor. If you're just going in for a couple of episodes, or even if you're on a series, sometimes you don't get those big arcs. So it was a real treat for me to be able to do that.
I know. I remember you from some of those kids, teens, TV shows because you're a really
On
funny
farm.
guy.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden I see you in something much more serious, which is quite drastic turn now for yourself.
Yeah, and it's love, again, just to be able to play the spectrum of those things, because I still have, those kids are in their 20s now, but people in their 20s will come up and be like, wait, you're Zoltan Grundy from Ant Farm. And then the fans of Sunny in Philadelphia are very different. They'll be like, yo, Psycho Pete. So each set of fans has its own sort of different kind of fandom and people that will approach you. So it's really nice to be able to do that.
Now, playing a real life character like Jerry Summers, was that always in the back of your mind, like sort of like, wait, I'm playing a real person?
Yes, I think so. I've done it before when I played Victor Buono on Feud, but that was a very different set of circumstances. Victor Buono was in the public eye, and so there was a lot of video footage and audio footage. And, he, when I played Victor, his family reached out to me and shared photographs and stories, and so that was utilizing all this material. And with Jerry, it was a little harder because he was a little reticent to talk on the Dr. Death podcast. He still considered Christopher Duntsch a friend. And so I didn't feel comfortable reaching out to him to pry about that friendship when he'd been through so much. It was a lot of, I followed him on social media, and I followed the things that he was posting. And again, he was so so loyal and so friendly. At the time I was following him, he would talk about his healthcare team and his dog Stella, and he loved sports, and he was bright and optimistic and joyful, even in the hardest of circumstances. And I think that for me is what I latched onto when figuring out how to play Jerry, was his loyalty, his compassion for the people that he loved around him. Um, and to a fault, it was Christopher Duntsch, who manipulated him. Um, as he manipulated his patients and everyone else around him. So yeah, that journey to getting into Jerry's shoes, I think, was um, and respectful as well, because you know he'd been through so much, and he was still with us at the time of starting filming, and he passed away in February of this year. So honoring him and making sure that you play him with respect, I think.
That sounds like it was very difficult to prep for a real life person like Jerry itself, and because you're only based on what his that podcast and social media to get it all accurate to dedicate it to him.
Yeah, and like I say, I would hate for Jerry to come across as, there are scenes of Christopher and Jerry doing drugs and dealing, and that's not the lasting impression that I ever wanted to leave for Jerry. And I spoke to Patrick McManus, the showrunner. I spoke with the directors, and I wanted to make sure that Jerry's point of view was always coming from his loyalty to Chris, that he wasn't the butt of any jokes, that it was coming from a sincere place, that the audience would never come away saying, "Oh my gosh, Jerry, what an idiot," because that would be the worst possible outcome. He was just someone who loved his friend so much that he was just blinded to everything that he was doing. He put his absolute trust in Christopher Duntsch, not once, but twice. He went under the knife twice for him because Christopher Duntsch said it was the right thing to do. And yeah, that's the approach I took.
What do you think about Jerry's loyalty and extreme love for Christopher Duntsch? I mean, that's a to have a friend like that is very, very rare.
Yeah, I think it's easier for us looking at Jerry and Chris's relationship from the outside, with hindsight and knowing what happened. But the other thing to know is, Jerry was never in the surgeries with Chris. He never saw firsthand what Chris was doing in the hospital or the way that he was interacting. So, I'm sure I've had friends that you meet them, and especially in, the entertainment industry, you tend to meet people who really talk the talk, and you go to classes, or you meet people that say, "Hey, I can get you a job. Oh, you want to be in a studio feature? Let's go." And they don't have those contacts, and they can't bring those things to fruition, but you put your trust and your faith in them. And that's what Christopher Duntsch was doing. And I think for Jerry, because he wasn't privy to that, he wasn't firsthand experiencing what Chris was doing in the surgical bay. And so for me, I think it's entirely forgivable to understand that this was just his best friend. And Chris would take him to the clubs on the weekend and get him into all these exclusive events and meet people. And, he was living with him and working with him, and he was driving him around. And Christopher Duntsch was going to be on billboards. He was going to be a celebrity. He was swept up in this what he thought was a wonderful thing. And so I think it's all the more heartbreaking, when he was embroiled in all that.
Absolutely. Now, eventually, Jerry, as people would know the real story, he becomes a quadriplegic. Was that the easiest thing you had to do on it, or was that the most difficult thing?
No, no, not at all. It's difficult. Something that I made certain on set was that there were no behind the scenes photos of me in the chair, no footage of me practicing in the chair, nothing that would in any way imply that it was fun or silly or trivial, because I think you have to work those scenes with respect, and then from an acting point of view, it's hard because I know that I'm very expressive with my hands, and I've been in acting classes where I've been told, stop moving, don't move so much, your arms, your face, like, stillness is power. So from that point of view, it was an interesting exercise to sort of be very still and very focused, and it's all about the words and it's all about the connection, which is what acting should be. But yeah, I would never presume to say that working in the chair was fun or easy or anything like that. It's, being respectful of people in that condition.
That is terrific to hear. A lot of people probably follow you as fans of, will forget that you're British. How easy is it to drop that accent on a dime?
I was raised on American television. Growing up, I was raised on Star Trek and Twin Peaks and Buffy and The X-Files and Battlestar Galactica, all this American programming. So now it's pretty easy to slip in and switch on the American accent and jump in. And I just became an American citizen, and I went to a drama school where we had accent and dialect classes. So I've been very fortunate in my career to jump from Scottish to British to Irish to what was it in Santa Clarita Diet? Was it Slovakian? South African, Australian, in the Good Place, American. Like, I've run the whole gambit, which is, it's such a treat as an actor to be able to do that. Yeah, it's fun.
That's why we love to hire our British actors for these things. So
yeah, I'll take it. But now now people can't say that anymore because now I'm a dual citizen. So technically, I'm American. So yeah.
Well, one more thing. Obviously, most of your scenes is with Joshua Jackson throughout. How was it working with him throughout this entire series for quite some time?
Yeah, really wonderful. It was a little odd because we filmed it in the height of COVID, and so in normal situations when you're on a set, you meet people and you're chatting and you're sitting in Video Village and there's lots of conversation, whether it's with the actors or the crew and everyone around. And because this was in the height of COVID, you're sort of brought down to set in a mask and a face shield and 6 feet apart. And it's like, hey Josh, I'm Dominic, how's it going? Good. And then you do the scene, and then you're sort of shepherded away into separate rooms again. But he's wonderful. He's so warm and gracious and upbeat. And when you work on a set, he's number one on the call sheet, and all that warmth and all that joy trickles down into the hair and makeup room and to everyone working on the set. And so, yeah, a real delight and a real masterclass in acting to see someone who is so warm and so friendly and so open play someone like Christopher Duntsch, who is so narcissistic and laser focused and greedy and just out for himself. And when he turns that on, it's terrifying, as I'm sure you can attest to, having seen the show.
Yeah, his performance is mesmerizing. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And for yourself, I know Los Angeles is trying to figure out whether they're opening up or closing down. But what's next for you?
I just did an episode of Fantasy Island over in Puerto Rico, which was delightful. And then I think I'm popping over to do another episode of Better Things this season. And then there's a couple of things with NDAs that I can't talk about. But yeah, taking it in stride, and you know, if a second wave of COVID comes along, I have writing to do, and I have my cats and movies to keep me company. And yeah, we'll take it in stride and see what comes along.
This is an excellent conversation, Dominic. Hey, I really appreciate you speaking to us about Dr. Death, and
Of course, thank you.
I think your performance is great, and you bouncing off of Dr. Jackson on this series was terrific. That relationship.
Thank you so much.
So next time.
Next time.